As an original member of the pop supergroup Chicago, he topped the charts with such classics as If You Leave Me Now, Baby What a Big Surprise, Hard to Say I'm Sorry, and You're the Inspiration. Success as a solo artist soon followed with hits like Glory of Love, Next Time I Fall, After All, and Restless Heart, to name just a few. Hello, I'm Ernie Manouse. Coming up on Interviews, our conversation with chart-topping singer, songwriter, and producer, Peter Cetera. What makes a melody memorable, do you think?
I don't know. I have no idea what makes one memorable. I just know you have to do it more than once in a song to make it unforgettable, you know. I get into this conversation a lot with people that are, you know, coming up or, you know, want to write a song and what da-da-da-da-da. And to me, the melody is the song. The melody is the thing that makes a song unforgettable. More so than the words, or you know, more so than the music. You know, it's the melody that's the thing that people. I mean, I'm a big Beatle fan, you know.
Yeah.
And more than a fan, and a stalker. No, I'm a Beatle fan, and yet, you know, there's many songs that I would flub up on the words even to this day on, but you know that melody, you know.
Yeah.
Memorable? I don't know. I don't know.
When you're writing it, though, and I want to go to the Beatles. I'll go to the Beatles thing right now and just ask you. Yeah. True, first time you met Paul McCartney, you forgot your name?
Yeah, I was so shocked. He was, they were doing Wings Over America tour.
Yeah.
And we were invited to the after party. We went to see and it was at the Harold Lloyd Estate, this fabulous estate in Southern California. And as I pulled up, we got out of the car to go into this. This party was so big. John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd were doing the Blues Brothers live. I mean, that was how big this party was. And as we get out of the limo to go to the party, I open the door, and out, stumbling out of the bushes, comes Paul and Linda. What they were doing in the bushes stays in the bushes. And I said, oh. Hi, Paul. And he goes, I know, Peter Cetera. Come on in, you know. And yeah, I was flabbergasted. They're my idols, musical idols.
Moments like that still affect you when somebody like a Paul McCartney knows who you are?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, big time.
You never get to the point where you assume.
You know, I stopped assuming a long time ago. You know, one would like to think, I'm so famous. No, I never think that. I think just the opposite to a fault. But I mean, I learned my lesson right in the height of Chicago success, you know, and walking down the street and excuse me, somebody stopped me for my autograph. Excuse me, would you sign this? And well, of course, and I signed it and handed it to them, and they went. And as they walked away, I heard them say, "Who?" So he obviously thought I was somebody else.
Somebody else, yeah.
So I never take that for granted, even to this day. No, I don't. No.
Always wanted to do this?
No. I wanted to be a football player and baseball player like every other kid, you know. And somewhere along the line, you know, listening to the radio. You know, when I love that kind of music, you know, and you start singing, and then I wanted to buy a guitar. My parents, no, you cannot have a guitar. You got to have an accordion. And jeez. So I think I was the last kid in Chicago to actually play accordion.
Do you still?
And I pick it up and it's kind of play some of the old polkas. But
is there a great accordion song out there that one day you can write
and
have a big hit?
When I played accordion, I'm half Polish, and there was nothing to this day. There's nothing quite as exciting as a Polish wedding with a great polka band. It was just to this day. I mean, even when I was a kid, watching my father. My father was an incredible Polish hop dancer. I mean, he was my mother would just sit down and let all the other ladies dance with my dad. But there was something about that live polka band.
Yeah.
And that got me enthused into music. And then when I started playing and started realizing that with the few guitars, chords that I knew from the Sears when I was like a sophomore in high school, in between the sports things and da-da-da-da-da, we would, have these. We would always go to the Indiana Dunes, being from Chicago. Right. That's where we went. And I started to notice that while the other guys were getting drunk and throwing up on the beach, I was over here playing my few little songs, and all the girls were around me. And I think that's sort of goes, oh, geez, okay, I get it.
Yeah. Emotionally, what does it feel like to be playing? Do you channel how you feel into the instrument, and how exactly does that happen on an inanimate object?
Well, I mean, I don't play as much as I used to. And being a bass player anyhow, you channel as much emotion into the groove, into the feeling, of the song, And yeah, I mean, I've always played with emotion, To me, that's the thing, I just can never stand there and play like that or sing like that, You need the passion, I think. And I mean, I think that's what ultimately I do with writing, and what I've done with the songs over the years that I write, and even the ones I don't write that I sing. I always try and sing them with emotion. Yeah. I want to feel what I'm singing, I just can't, like, oh, the booty short. I need to,
When you're writing, do you use an instrument? Can you just think it through? How does
No, I need, you need a guitar to have chords, or a piano, or somebody with me. I really like writing with other people, especially, piano or guitar players that are really, so that I can sit back and just melody to me is, like we were saying before, I have a 25-year-old daughter. Right. And an 11-year-old daughter, but my 25-year-old daughter, Claire, is is in the music. And I was always trying to explain to her about singing, which she gets, I think, she's starting to really get that. And writing, she hasn't really, we sort of sat down and, but, because of the generation, musical generation separating, she likes certain things, and she thinks that we don't touch, and even though you do, musically, there's a...
Right.
And she just called me up the other day, and she said, I just wrote the first thing I really ever liked with this guy, with this song. And she played me the song, and it was really awesome. It was and I could just hear in her voice. I said, I think you finally got it, because there's that magic of when you write a song, nothing better. There's nothing better than that. Oh my goodness, I like this, There's nothing better. The recording process, or the playing, or the it's about the last thing for me on the scale of what I like the best is, the writing of it, then the recording, and then the actual live performance of it,
Yeah.
In order of what's the most exciting to me.
As a father, how does it feel when you hear your daughter has created something like the work you do? Is there a different sense of pride? Is it kind of an intensified?
Yeah, you're you're probably pretty. I never wanted her to go into music. So for me, it sounds like my parents, right?
Yeah. We saw how bad that turned out.
Can you get something to fall back on? I went to IBM school because I was going to fall back on that. But I mean, she went to USC, and I was just, please, she was raised up in Ketchum, Idaho. Mm-hmm. When she was 1 year old and raised, and the reason was because when I joined the group Chicago, when we moved out of Chicago to California and lived there for years, and then when we broke up, whatever that was. Then I moved up to Idaho, right, and that's where my oldest daughter grew up. And of course, with the first place she wants to go to school, when she got to SoCal and went to USC, I was like, yeah. I want to come here. And I thought, oh, great, she'll have a chance to broaden her horizons. And she got her degree in and then she wants to be a singer-songwriter. And, you know, I mean, I try to give her just, what am I going to tell my daughter? Because I'm not really connected to whatever the industry is out there anymore.
Yeah.
But, you know, I just said, you know, make sure you know, whatever you do, make sure you love it and have fun doing it, you know. And to hear her finally, she got it this time, and she can't even sleep, you know.
Yeah.
She's so excited. So yeah, it's awesome for me to see that, you know.
I could take you back to playing clubs.
Sure.
Just way back in the beginning there. If I understand the story correctly, your band was opening for, or another band was opening for your band, and you liked that opening band, went to listen to them, got involved with them, and that eventually became Chicago.
I was just talking about this with a fellow last night that played years ago with Ramsey Lewis, who was you know, and he worked in Chicago, so he knew all the same clubs that we used to talk about. And having talked to you, and you went to Loyola in Chicago, and I told you that I went to Quigley for a year. My mother wanted me to be a priest, and
how's that working for you?
that's let's see. I hear confessions in about 20 minutes, and so that school, as you know, was right down on Rush Street, Quigley, and thinking back to all those clubs that were there, I mean, I played every one of them within a matter of a couple of years, and this fellow was there, you know, playing the other clubs, and I was in a band for years in Chicago called The Exceptions, and we were the best there was. We were, and you know, in those days, I also told my daughter that back then, you know, I've never been out of work since I was like 17, you know, because there was a club on every corner, and every club had a band, you know.
Yeah.
And we sort of, you know, came to the end of the line with The Exceptions. We were doing our top 40 things and making quite a good living for a lot of years, traveling here and there a little bit. And one night we had a grand opening of a club, and we found out that they hired two bands, us and then these upcoming guys called The Big Thing. And so, you know, I had heard them play, and they had horns, you know. And I thought, wow, nice, you know, because they were doing the Magical Mystery Tour and stuff like that. Yeah. You know, not just the soul stuff, you know. And it just so happened that I was leaving, or about to try and get out of this group that I had been in, and they were looking for an additional singer and bass player. And boom, boom, that's how we sort of
any fear, and it'll make sense in a minute why I'm asking this, but any fear leaving the more successful group to go into this less known group, or at that point, don't you think in those terms?
At that point, I didn't care. Well, I was making about as good a living as you can make playing in a group at that time. We were always working, always. There was always the next club work waiting for us, and so we always worked. And it just got to be when I heard this other group that turned out to be Chicago, they were doing different songs that we didn't do. They weren't doing the top 40. They were doing the choice picks, and I thought, no, I didn't care at that point. I was ready for a change, and I just went with it, you know. We had a talk one night after one of the nights. Hey, we want to talk to you about something. Oh, okay. Would you ever think about coming on to these guys? And I said, it's funny you should say that. You know,
it worked.
And it was like that. It was just literally one group right to this.
Okay, and, fast forward 25 or so years. Now you're going to leave Chicago and go off on your own. Any worry there, concern, or
big time? Yeah. I mean, I was just talking with somebody about this. I didn't really leave Chicago. They sort of forced my hand at that point. Yeah. It's either you got to sign this contract, or we're going to have to look for somebody else. I went, what? I just wanted to do a solo album, like a lot of guys who were in groups do a solo album, then you do group solo with and they didn't want me to do that. I don't know why, you know. They probably knew the inevitable would happen, and it didn't. And so they kind of forced me out, and they said, well, if you don't sign this contract, we're going to look for another bass player, thinking I'd go, oh, geez, I'm sorry, you know. And I thought about it for about 10 minutes, and I went, you better look for another bass player. What? You know.
Wow.
Hung up the phone, and I was just like, because here I was in L.A., and my gosh, what am I going to do now? I had no idea. Yeah, so that was nerve-wracking. That was like, because, you know, you went from a thing that was we were very successful, and then we went downhill, and then I kind of brought us back up again, and now it was, wow, very scary.
How long before you knew you'd made the right choice?
You know, right when I hung up the phone.
Really, right?
Yeah, we were, that was, it's sort of been brewing for a long time. I mean, the group was not destined to remain together. Terry Kath, before he died, he wanted out before anybody. Yeah. And then Bobby Lamb wanted out, before, and I was just third in line to want out, Yeah. Terry Kath got out a different way, by an accident, and Bobby Lamb stayed in, and they sort of managed to run me out emotionally, and so I think right at that point it was like, phew, okay, I know this is scary, but I think it's something I have to do. Did I make the right choice? Well, yeah. I mean, of course.
Oh, yeah.
Has my career been as successful as I hoped? No, but it's been my fault.
Well, you say that, and it's funny. You think Peter Cetera, and you think the name and the success, and I don't know that most people initially, when you say it, realize how many hits you've had.
No,
and how long a span these have been over. It's a phenomenal career.
That's kind of one of the things I do when I do the show. Is listen. I hear my songs, like I say to people on the show, look, it's okay. I hear my songs in the supermarket too, on the elevators. Yeah. It doesn't bother me. I love it, And I think that puts people, okay, it is. Because I do love it, Do I wish I had this mega big career? Yeah, I think the way I've done it is the way I was meant to do it. I'm not... I don't really crave that big, yes, I wish I could have sat home and written and recorded and had a number of mega hits with these wonderful songs continuing in the line, but there came to be a certain point when, when I really didn't record as much or whatever, but no, I never regretted it.
That's funny, because I think you judge yourself harsher than we all would.
Well, no, I think it's reality, I mean, it's true, because you just said it, people... I can see in the show, and that's something else I tell people, tonight I'm going to show you the song that you've always known, a bunch of songs you've always known, the name, and my face. You're going to put those all together tonight, because I know that some of you, hey, there's that voice, there's a saying, oh, you're the guy that your name was, and you were with, and they can put it all together, and it's the way it is,
When you talk about the voice, another story I heard, correct me if I'm wrong, broken jaw at Dodger Stadium, and you went on tour singing through the...
Well, I mean, I was in intensive care for a while getting wired back together. And then there came, I was wired like this, and I had there was a little hole right here between these two teeth. And I started talking like that, because... And, there came to be a point when we had commitments,
Yeah.
And so, but within a matter of time, right, I got like 2 months, and then, boom, we're on the road, and I was... singing and playing like this and trying to sing backgrounds with my jaw wired shut. Yeah.
Now, back to what we were just talking about, and you're talking about choices that you make, and you didn't live the Hollywood lifestyle then. You went, raised your kids, took that path. So was that a conscious choice to, let's do a simpler life?
You mean once the split from Chicago happened? Yeah, that was a conscious choice. And I did live the Hollywood lifestyle before, like we all did out there, Right. We lived in Hollywood, And that's what you did out there. You lived the Hollywood lifestyle. You got your car all, and you clothes, and sometimes you dressed goofy and had, looked weird and did stupid things that you're embarrassed about. Nobody ever told me not to, so we did whatever we wanted to, like everybody else did, and that probably continues to do,
Now, at that point too, you didn't do a lot of touring. If I've read all
the stuff... You mean with
stuff
Chicago or...
After.
Right after.
Back in the solo career down until about like 94,
No,
95.
I never did a lot of touring. And I think when we split and I moved up to Idaho, and then I did the subsequent, Glory of Love album, and the Next Time I Fall, and all the other ones after, Restless. Right in the beginning, there was no backing from the record company that I was with, because they wanted me back in Chicago, and they told me as much, I was talking about that this morning with my ex-brother-in-law about that, and so they didn't really promote anything. So here I had 2 number 1 songs off my the first album after, our split, and my album wasn't in the top 50. It was like very strange, and they basically told me, no, we want you back in Chicago. Oh, well, thank you so much. So touring to me, I didn't want to go on the road because at that point I knew that the tie with Chicago was so great, and I wanted to do my stuff.
Right.
Like everybody that leaves something like that, I want to do this. And so I thought, well, and back then when I, became a solo artist, the thing was when you did TV shows, and I did a lot of the TV shows and stuff, it was lip sync.
Right.
That was the days when, you would, and nobody, that's the way you did it.
When you're doing it, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but
Silly,
when you're doing
stupid,
that, what are you thinking? Because I've seen clips of all of this.
Silly goofball is what you think. It's embarrassing. It's like, I went to Japan, and people dancing behind you, and you're all made up, and it's just like, oh, I don't want this,
Yeah.
But I did a lot of that, singing "Glory of Love," and it was. I knew that if I went on the road, hey, play some Chicago, and I just didn't want that at that point.
Right. But I'm assuming too, it gave a different life to your kids too. It gave a more stable existence.
For my daughter at the time, yeah. I mean, I was home a lot, and and then when I finally did put together a band, and we learned to, and that was kind of the hard thing. I knew that people couldn't differentiate Peter Cetera's music songs from Chicago. They just assumed that, hey, play Saturday in the Park. Well, I didn't write it. I didn't sing it. Yeah. Why would I play it? So there was a bunch of those songs that they kept tying in with me that I had nothing really outside of playing bass and singing background or singing the lead on some of the other things that, maybe Bobby wrote or whatever. 25 or 64, Question 67 and 68, I didn't want to have to go through that, so I didn't. And that didn't put me in good stead with record. What? You're not going to tour?
Right.
You're going to do the Chicago songs, aren't you? No. What? And then when I finally decided to tour, which was a couple of years down the road, I put together this awesome band, and we had some fun on the road for a while and did some great tours, and I couldn't keep that going, so I retreated even further back up into Idaho and kind of lived the life I always wanted to live when I was traveling.
And now I guess you do something that's a lot of fun. I would assume it's probably a lot of work, but I bet you love it, the symphony stuff.
Yeah, and that came about, like I say, I was sitting home going, geez, I guess my career might be over unless I can write some more. I better go on there. What do I want to do? How is I going to get back on to do something, And my good friend David Foster called me up wanting to know if I wanted to be part of this. He was putting together the musical. McDonald's Corporation was having they have this bash I don't know how often they have it, but they had the big bash in Chicago at McCormick Place for their worldwide Ronald McDonald houses, and there was a lot of big people there. He wanted to know if I would sing on that, and I said, well, David, I really haven't done too much in 5, 6, 7, 8 years here, and he goes, well, it'll be fun. And so I begrudgingly went to L.A., and we worked out a little medley of the songs that we had worked on, together. And it was nerve-wracking. We went to Chicago, and it was filmed for PBS, and it was with the symphony and the big, the best L.A. players. And here I was back on stage. It was like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? When I walk out on moments like that, it's kind of sort of the same thing happens like at the Academy Award when it was time for me to go out there and sing, the Academy Award nominated song, from Karate Kid, Glory of Love. At that moment, I think, oh my gosh, 50 cajillion people. Why do I wait to think that right when I walk on stage, And through that thing, PBS contacted me and said, hey, we saw your thing. Would you ever think of doing that for a PBS special? Yeah. actually, come to think of it, my career has always been like this, doing it backwards, you know. And so I agreed to it. So I did a PBS special without ever having gone on the road to, you know, like you take your play to,
right,
you know, off Broadway before you come to Broadway. So I did this PBS special with the symphony, and that led to like, hey, we really like that show. Do you ever go on the road and do that? And so here we are today, 6 years later.
As we run out of time, then last question then about it. What does it feel like to stand in front of that symphony and sing these songs?
Sometimes it feels really good. Sometimes you just want to turn around and go, shape up. Mostly, it's awesome. It really is. It just gives me that little thing that doesn't make me. It makes me feel that it's still new and vibrant and not. Here we go again, you know. And it's it's great. Wouldn't everybody like to sing in front of a symphony just once in your life? Well, I get to do it quite a bit, and it's a thrill.
Well, a pleasure to have you.
Hey,
thank you
so
for sitting
much.
down
I
talking
appreciate
with
it.
us.
Thank you.
Peter Cetera.
To order a DVD of this or any episode of Interviews, please visit HoustonPBS.org.